Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Phone in. What have I done? One plugged in. Look at this other one. Probably don't need to put that in the charger. Go on about 10 minutes, something like that. It's at 90 something percent, 94 or something. What's there? Keys are here, I got everything.
On 4BC Bricky. Storm star Cameron Munster is backing the NRL's bid to stamp out dangerous contact on kickers. Teammate Harry Grant was sin-binned and charged for colliding with leg of Sharks kicker Daniel Atkinson. Munster understands why the league is cracking down.
You've seen in games where, unfortunately, Lockie Ilias has had a broken leg, so I know what direction they want to go, but like I said, this is going to be consistency.
In form, Roosters forward Angus Crichton says he's confused by the club's decision to sign rival back rower David Fafita. Crichton says he doesn't want to be sitting behind anyone else and is open to offers from other clubs. Swan star Tom McCartan will sit out Friday night's AFL clash with Carlton due to ongoing concussion symptoms. And Rory McIlroy's fight 17 under to win the Wells Fargo Championship. And that's the very latest news and sport.
At First Choice Liquor Market, we offer more choice with a huge range. Our team of experts are always there with friendly advice.
And we have low prices across the store and online. That's why
We're your first choice.
First Choice Liquor Market.
Anthony from Goodfields Eatery knows hard work is essential for success.
Absolutely. Every dollar counts.
So when it came to the savings built up in the business,
I needed it to work as hard as we do, and a lot harder than our other bank.
and that's why he opened a Macquarie Business Savings account.
Finally, we're getting the rate our savings deserve.
With Macquarie Bank, you can finally earn a great rate of 4.65% per annum on balances up to $1 million for your business savings.
Fantastic.
In business, everything counts. Search Macquarie Business Savings and say,
We bank with Macquarie.
T's and C's apply, rates are variable. Consider if right for you.
Breaking news, Barry, the last person you'd think to get an EV just bought a Toyota BZ4X all-wheel drive.
I can't believe Barry got an EV. Probably because it's got all-wheel drive capability to go off-road.
Ground control, what's this about Barry getting an EV with spacious cabin and wireless phone charging?
We are here live to understand why he chose an EV. So Barry, why did you choose?
906 kilometers to go. It says I get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I don't stop. 9 hours and 10 hours. I can do it. Probably more like 12 or 13. 12 hours is probably just enough for the battery, but I'll have to stop. Do one more stop and charge.
First Choice Liquor Market, our team of experts are your first choice for great advice. We'll help you find your favourites or discover something new. That's why we're your first.
It's a pretty fast charger, this thing.
Get a look inside your favourite show. Click on watch at 4bc.com.au.
Staying mostly clear with light winds over Brisbane down to 14 degrees. Partly cloudy tomorrow, 26 in the city and Ipswich, 25 in Bayside. Possible showers on Wednesday, 25. Further ahead, a shower or two on Thursday, 24. Staying cloudy on Friday, 24. On the bays, winds up to 20 knots and seas below 1 metre.
Probably should clean the windscreen too.
And now on 2GB Sydney, 4BC Brisbane, and network stations across Australia. It's time for Nights with John Stanley.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome along. Welcome to Monday night. A brand new week it is, and a lot ahead of us tonight. Our news hour shortly with our national political editor, Michael Packey. Of course, a lot of focus on the national capital with the federal parliament sitting, the budget being announced tomorrow night. So this time tomorrow night we will have brought you the budget and we will begin the analysis. Deb will be here, we'll have our commentators from right around the country. So tomorrow night we'll have the analysis of the federal budget. It did get me thinking because I was listening to a lot of the commentary right through the day on all of this, and a lot of focus on where inflation is, and you've got the Reserve Bank saying that inflation is going to get up into up to 3.8% before it starts to go back down again. Yet you've got the government, the Treasurer, suggesting he can get it down below 3%. So you've got these starkly different numbers, one from the Reserve Bank and one from the Treasury. And it got me thinking. I know on Saturdays I often open up the race guide, and there are a range of tipsters, people who are highly accomplished, who've got very, very good track records, tipping on the same race meeting, and you look along their tips, and two people who really know their stuff. One will be tipping completely differently to someone else. Then there's the footy tipping, where over the weekend just gone, and within this network we have some of the most experienced and highly credentialed sports reporters, people who've lived their lives, particularly in the NRL, and yet the tipping competition this weekend, Deb Knight, 8 out of 8, and I was second, 7. So Deb, and I'll put myself in the same category as Deb. We're not, we're not on the level of everyone else in terms of our knowledge of sport. So when you have these numbers, you wonder how they come up with these numbers and which one will be right. And there's a lot at stake in terms of all of this. And then you read the form guide. The form guide for the Reserve Bank. This is the outfit that was telling us there wouldn't be any interest rate rises until about 2024, and completely pulled the rug out of so many people. That's the Reserve Bank, and then the Federal Treasury, and I guess federal treasurers who get involved in all of these numbers and produce these numbers out of their offices. Well, as we've seen over the years, those numbers are rubbery at best. So, look, tomorrow night we'll actually see the actual numbers written down on a piece of paper. We'll do a bit of a preview with Michael Packy shortly. You might have some views on all of that. 131873 is the number. There's plenty of other stories around. Of course, today we've got this situation with now groups of asylum seekers from Vietnam arriving in Australia. Remembering that the vast majority of asylum seekers in this country, and there's a massive queue of people who are waiting for processing and potentially being deported, tens and tens of thousands. In fact, could be, last time I looked, it was over 100,000. They're people who've arrived over the last decade by plane. That's still the biggest source of people coming in here and claiming asylum. So we'll talk with Michael Packy about that one. And we've also got the ongoing stoush over what's happening in the Middle East, and whether Palestine should be given an extra step in the direction of being part of the United Nations. As I say, with all of this, there's a lot of talk back and forth, but I'm still waiting for someone to give me some definitive path to any sort of a resolution in the Middle East. There ain't one that I can see. 131873 is our number. Later on, we'll have Stephen Pinnick will be here, our tech man. There was a story happened in here today with this business of the 3G network.
Should have about 10 and 12 hours in that Starlink. That's better.
3G, and even though the system hasn't been closed down, it's weak and only works intermittently. So we're going to have to use cash in the machine out here. Only 13% of transactions now are being done in cash, and the numbers are falling very, very, very quickly. But it's hit and miss apparently with the credit card out there. So you think about all the things that are running with older technology where the old swiping thing was brought in early and it's now got to be replaced. I don't think they've quite got on top of how big this is going to be with the shutdown of 3G. We'll talk to Stephen Fennick about that a bit later on. And a few years back, I had a fascinating conversation with a fellow who at the time
head
was
southeast.
the president of the Dry Cleaning Institute.
Okay,
Now,
I happen to
actually
be in
didn't
Southeast
believe
Queensland.
there was something called the Dry Cleaning Institute. There is, because dry cleaning's a big business.
Take the next right onto Ilbilby Road.
And one of these disrupting ideas where he thinks
Continue for 3 kilometres.
onto this, where you are turning
Where am I
the
going?
old thing that often happens.
Why is it telling me
in
going
neighbourhoods
left when I
someone
went
might
right?
take in
I
some
came
washing.
right.
You might do some washing during the day for someone down the road or whatever. That it was always an informal thing.
Yeah, turn right.
He's got quite a sophisticated app and system set up where it's like Airbnb for laundry, where people can actually become an Airbnb. You can actually take in the laundry, but you do it in a very formal way. We'll tell you more about that. It's a very interesting one. Often when someone comes up with a business idea, they explain it and you think, that's really good. So
Thanks for joining me, chat.
We're going to explain it for us a bit later in the program.
Still got 10 plus hours to go.
He will entertain us later in the program. Things to give away and hopefully have a laugh. There are some very serious stories to get across as well. 131873, as always, is the number. If you've got something you'd like to share with us, you can jump on the phone. You can also text us as many as you'd like. 60.
Hey boss, we've got some more orders.
Could you do a bulk order?
Hey boss, we've got some more orders.
Could you do a bulk order?
Hey, I've got materials ready for the extension. Ready for the extension. Extension.
Your numbers are looking good.
If business decisions feel wild, wrangle them with a NAB business expert. NAB, more than money.
I know you find it funny, but many car owners go to the bump shop by accident. There's a good reason why they're the masters smash repairers. Their smash repair team the very best. Trained estimators give accurate, easy-to-read quotes. Experienced technicians use advanced equipment to repair and detail all makes and models to factory standards. With perfect colour matching on metallic and pearl finishes and a lifetime warranty. It's no wonder all major insurance companies and vehicle manufacturers recommend the bump shop. The master smash repairer at Eagle Farm. Go to the website, thebumpshop.com.au.
Did you know APA Insurance can offer personalised advice? Which means they take the time to understand what matters to you most, so you get cover that suits you and your budget. That's just one reason we're proud to have been awarded CanStar's Most Satisfied Customers with Seamless Insurance 2023. Chat with APA on 135050 today. That's APA value. APA is an authorised representative. AII Limited, the product issuer. Read the PDS before buying this insurance. Call for a copy. TMD also available.
Discover more of sunny Portugal with Viking's 10-day Portugal's River of Gold cruise tour. Viking's purpose-built river ships sail during the day so you can sit back and relax as vineyards and villages glide past. Explore colourful and historic buildings of Lisbon and Porto. Lose yourself in the sounds of Fado music and sample port wines from the oldest wine region in the world. With savings up to $2,000 per couple, now's the time to explore Portugal with Viking. Book at Viking.com or see your Viking travel agent. In business, every second counts. Let your internet connection keep up with your business and upgrade it to NBN Fibre. Fibre internet doesn't just keep up, it
Got a cab like kangaroos jumping out.
business to thrive. More businesses than ever before can now upgrade to NBN Full Fibre to access faster speeds and a more reliable connection, helping you save time and money. To find out if you can get NBN's fastest internet, Google NBN, check your address, then talk to your internet provider. Customer experience may vary. Talk to your retailer for details.
I want to talk to you about what will happen when I die. No, I'm perfectly fine. It's my now's a good time for me to make plans. You have both brought me so much joy since you've come into my life, so you'll be well looked after. And I want to make sure others get the same opportunities that you received. So I'm leaving a gift to the Animal Welfare League Queensland in my will. Animal Welfare League Queensland, trusted to look after the welfare of animals.
Can't talk about $40 a
20 years.
Deadlines on Brisbane's 882 4BC thanks to the Como Hotel in Redcliffe. Open daily from 7:30am. thecomo.com.au.
17 minutes past 8 is the time. Amazing Interfinancial Year is on now. Parramatta City and Blacktown City, GWM go with more. 131873 is our number. There's plenty on our plate tonight. Our national political editor, Michael Packey. This time tomorrow night, he'll have emerged from a room where he'll have been reading the budget, but also there's a whole series.
If I can find that barbecue on the way, electrical, and I'll stop and cook some sausages or something.
Buried away in there that they don't really want you to see. So who knows, Michael, what we'll be talking about 24 hours from now?
Yeah, I think that's right, John. Who does know? Because there's been a fair bit of it that has been leaked over the last week or so, and tomorrow's leak is going to be about the surplus. So we're going to find out what the surplus is tomorrow morning. So that's essentially what they're going to be telling us. So by the time we get into the budget lockup at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and emerge 7 hours later, you're going to be having to, look through the detail of some of the stuff that they might be announcing. I reckon that the announcements for tomorrow night will probably be a bit of a cost of living cash splash. There probably will be some of that energy bill relief. They reckon there could be some money in there for rent assistance. There could be some of the announcements that could be made tomorrow. And I noticed that just looking at the very early front pages of the Daily Telegraph for Tuesday, it says, "Killing us with kindness." Essentially, they reckon that some of the announcements that Jim Chalmers and the government is going to make tomorrow will fuel inflation rather than try and curb it, even though the Treasurer has been saying that one of his main objectives of this budget is to try and tackle the inflation dragon.
Look, I think that's fine. I'm not sure there's many people are going to be standing around tomorrow morning debating the level of inflation. At its heart, we have the key undertaking of that last election, and we've talked about this plenty of times. The key message that you got at the last election was we will ease the cost of living, put downward pressure, all those cliches. We're going to do something about the cost of living. We'll reduce the pressures on the cost of living. Well, it's gone up.
Well, absolutely, it's gone up, and of course the other doozy for the government was the $275 in bill relief by 2025.
So that's going to happen by this time next year.
This time next year.
And I think it's going to about $800 the other side of that.
That's right. So energy prices have started coming down, but they're still high. They're maybe not as high as they thought that they would be, but they're still high. So that's why people are suggesting that it'll be some sort of an energy announcement that'll be made tomorrow as probably one of the centerpieces of the budget. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do say. This is an election budget. Let's not kid ourselves. There'll be an election next year. Between now and next year, there'll probably be a few financial updates. There'll be one in December and probably one in March before he calls an election. But this is going to be one of the key financial blueprints ahead of the next election. So you'd expect there to be some key announcements that are going to be made which they feel that they can sell between now and the next election, and they can continue to hammer home a message between now and the next election. But I will tell you one thing, John. I do think that the announcement that they made today, so the leak that we were given yesterday for today, that inflation will come down fairly drastically and will fit between the Reserve Bank's target range of 2 to 3% by Christmas. It is quite interesting because it is at odds with what the Reserve Bank said last Tuesday. They're saying that inflation still remains on the higher end and there's a potential for an interest rate hike. So the fact that you've got the key forecasters for the government being the Treasury and the Reserve Bank seemingly at odds as to where they think inflation is going to be, I do think that's interesting and a political risk to a certain extent for the government if by Christmas time inflation remains high and has not come down within the Reserve Bank's target range of 2 to 3%.
That gets linked into interest rates, and
that's right.
Are struggling with interest rates. And then there's the announcement on housing over the weekend, and there's been questions over the amount of money involved. But ultimately, so you look at the numbers today where people have been cutting their food spending to cope with rising costs, and there's a very dramatic difference between if people own their own home outright, well, they're just keeping spending. They're increasing their spending by 6.3%. There's nothing really stopping them. They can go out and spend. Whereas if you've got even if you've got a mortgage, you're still spending a bit more. But if you're renting, a third of all households, that spending's only up by 1.3%. So renters are saving, they're not spending as much money, they're under a lot of pressure. And then you look at the stories where you've got this generational divide where younger people, they want to see something done to reduce the cost of housing or stabilise the cost of housing and rents. And there's nothing going to happen on that front in the short or medium term. You've got to get builders able to build and actually make it a worthwhile proposition, because they're the ones that have to go and do this, and then they've got to be able to sell what they build for a reasonable return. But then if the return's too high and people can't afford it, I don't know how they're going to come up with even a medium-term solution to this. It's a real mess, housing.
Absolutely, it's a real mess. And the $11 billion that was announced over the weekend in the housing commitment, basically that's an extension of what was announced by the previous government, except the only thing that the new federal government, or the Labor, the Albanese government, is doing is they're continuing the funding. The funding for the housing arrangement was due to stop in July. Basically, the Albanese government is saying, well, we're continuing it. So you've got about, so the government has spent about, $25 billion on housing over a decade. They've now poured another $11 billion. So what's that, about $36 billion just to try and get the housing situation under control. And all they're saying that they're going to build is 1.2 million houses. But some of this money is going towards the states, and it's fast-track sewerage and fast-track other infrastructure in some of these new developments by cutting some of the red tape. And I was talking to a few people in government about this, and they were telling me, they're saying, look, one of the biggest problems with a lot of these housing developments, it's not just about trying to find workers and making sure you've got the material supplies. It's a lot of the red tapes when it comes to building the actual infrastructure, building the pipes for sewage, and making sure that there's enough of a town centre available in these new developments. He goes, that's as much of a problem as the other stuff as well. So that's why the government is saying that they're going to be funneling billions of dollars to the states to try and fast track those things as well.
Yeah. And look, it's now acknowledged people to come in and do these jobs, but this is too much. We're not going to be able to cope with this. We don't know whether these people are going to go and live, and that decision, that should have been made a while ago.
Yeah, look, that's absolutely right. And now you've got this sort of catch-up to try and halve the migration rate, and this is what's also going to be announced in the budget tomorrow night.
Here now, come in.
That's right. The ones that are here that have come in, well, there's not much that the government can do about that. They're going to have to stay, because a lot of them are students who are also trying to work on the side. And this is where you've got also the debate with the universities that's starting to come in, because essentially the government is saying that one way that it wants to try and deal with this migration issue is by limiting or restricting the number of students that can come to Australia to study. But the universities want the money from these foreign students as well. So, it is going to be, it is a problem. It is a problem, because the other thing that the government is doing, and again, this will be announced in the budget, it's something that they've already announced, is that they're going to be providing more of these free TAFE places to try and encourage people to get into trades and move into the construction sector. And also, if you're a teacher or a nurse or a midwife, where they need people, they're saying, well, when you're doing your prac, we'll pay you $300 a week. Because obviously pracs are unpaid most of the time. But even if they offer free fee TAFE places, or they offer to pay for people's prac, are there going to be enough students still interested in those career paths? That's the other question.
That's the issue, and the other thing. And I think we've been ahead of the curve in this, in pointing out the demographic divide and what's happening where, particularly inner city seats, like it or not, there's the Greens and others are scooping up votes from Labor now, and also from the coalition from the major parties on the back of the discontent over housing. And so Anthony Albanese spoke to his party room today, and just have a listen to what he had to say today, Anthony Albanese. Just have a listen now to what he had to say in the party room. Now, we'll bring it out in a second. We'll have a listen to, this is what he had to say in the party room today, Anthony Albanese. And again, I think this sort of overarching long-term view isn't going to, I don't know how it's going to play with people who are saying, well, I can't get into a house. Look at the sort of deposit I've got to put together. How am I going to be helped? Have a listen.
Jobs, skills and infrastructure and housing in social care, be it health or education. And that's what Labor governments always do. Deal with the urgent necessities, but always with our eye on a better future.
Okay, so that was a set piece presentation to the party group today, and we'll be hearing more about that. But I think platitudes are not going to fly. And platitudes aren't going to fly with people who, particularly, that's why I think the housing issue is such a big issue. And there's a group of young people coming in every week who are old enough to vote, and who they're being courted by the Greens and others who say, "Oh, we can do something for you," when we know that they can't. But they're giving them a message, and so this is what we're heading for this time next year in the elections.
Well, that's right, and we've been saying this, as you say, we've been ahead of the curve on this issue, and I notice that now people are starting to talk about the fact that there could be a minority government, and that Labor could be losing a sense of independence, all the Greens, because of these policy positions, which is why also over the last week or so you've been hearing announcements such as the HEX announcement, wiping the $3 billion in HEX debt. You are hearing these stories about, paying people doing certain courses for their pracs. They're trying to see if they can do they're trying to do their best to try and attract these younger voters that are coming through by making these announcements. But as you quite rightly say, I think for a lot of people, they just see them as piecemeal and not maybe too genuine. And for a lot of people, as you also quite rightly say, John, it is the housing issue, and that's something that the Greens have really nailed their mast on. The only thing that's interesting, and as you say as well, John, is that the Greens can come out with these, fairly outlandish policies in terms of trying to get the housing crisis under control. But there's sort of things that are just never going to happen or never going to really fly. But they offer enough of a headline, for people to at least get them thinking about the issue.
And look, I think it might have been one of our coalition guests was saying that the Max Chandler Mason, the Greens spokesman on housing, he's very articulate and sells his message very well. And
yes, he does.
They'd like to have him as part of their team on the basis not of his political views, but just the way he actually
is able to sell,
to communicate to the young. 131873 is number over $7.20 for 2 bottles of 2-litre Pepsi Max at Coles. So I don't know whether that's one of those benchmark products, but there you go. The cost of things are going up. People are trying to reduce their spending. So we'll be talking a lot about that. We'll do the usual thing, won't we, tomorrow night, Michael, where you do a budget, you have the winners and the losers, but individuals work out whether they're a winner or a loser, and they'll be looking to see, well, this is going to help me after promises to reduce the cost of living, and it hasn't happened. That's going to be the big issue, I think. That's the problem.
Oh, absolutely, and they know it. They know it.
I want to take a break into some of these others. Can I just mention, because he went to Queensland, he was wearing the hat in Queensland, and so that because they're trying to woo, Queensland's going to be critical in the next election. He then went across last week to West Australia, where they had their budget, and he appeared over there, Anthony Albanese. That's where they're desperately trying to prop up seats over there. And then he made this housing announcement in Tasmania at the weekend. I don't know whether every seat's going to count, or whether it was because the housing minister's in Tasmania. Was there a strategy doing it in Tasmania?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I mean, I know that the housing minister, Julie Collins, she's from Tasmania, and that's where they've made the announcement of the extra $11 billion. I do know that the housing issue is quite potent in Tasmania, because there is that whole because, as you know, the federal government, along with the state government, is funding the new stadium, the new AFL stadium in Tasmania. And I noticed, one of the election issues, or the state election issues in Tasmania, was people were saying, well, you're spending all this money to build an AFL stadium, which a lot of Tasmanians don't feel that the state needs. Why isn't this money being funded, or being funneled rather, into to build more housing, whether it be social housing or affordable housing or that sort of thing? They believe that, that the governments, both Liberal and Labor, Liberal at a state level, Labor at a federal level, are spending all this money, billions of dollars, to build a stadium, which they don't feel they need. But then housing is going by the wayside, and it's housing which they do feel that they need, and that's where the money can be better spent. So maybe this is Albanese made the housing announcement in Tasmania to try and counterbalance that argument a bit, saying, oh, yeah, we are doing something about housing.
Yeah, okay, and look, I'll just mention this because this is one of these sort of light, sort of almost puerile stories, and I did have a look at this. People are always critical of politicians trying to tie themselves to a particular football team or a particular football code. I did spend 5 minutes having a look through various old stories. Anthony Albanese, I didn't realise this, he's been a supporter of Hawthorn, he says, for a long time. He has there are photos of him in Geelong gear and Swans gear and at events where they've, I think, made funding announcements. But if you actually want to be fair about it, it goes back probably 6 or 7 years, the quotes of him being a Hawthorn supporter. But I only realised what had happened because this has been quite heavily debated in Melbourne, as you imagine, where it's the religion. But Hawthorn won their game. It was played in Tasmania, so he was there with a Hawthorn scarf, and they had the shot of the rooms. What happens after every game? Every AFL team that wins gets into a circle. The cameras are on them, and this is always broadcast. They sing their team song, and so the team saw him, and the players called him over to stand with them with his Hawthorn scarf, and I thought this could be a bit of a disaster. But they had the cameras right on him. He actually did know the words, which was imagine if he hadn't known the words, would have been a real disaster.
Even worse.
But the fact that he was there and he was wearing the scarf, he's really a rugby league man. The Melbourne Footy Show. This has actually been turned into an outrage story in the Daily Mail website. This was Tony Jones, part of the Channel 9 team. This is the Melbourne Footy Show on this.
I was almost sick yesterday when I looked at the Hawthorn Club song, and let's have a look at that. And there, front and centre, was the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. Has no interest in AFL, right? And there it was there. Like, got the scarf around. Go away. Like, seriously, when will Prime Ministers learn? Just stay in your lane, and that's normally in the House of Representatives. John Howard, this bowling effort here, I mean, this was one of the worst that we've ever seen.
Yeah, they then showed John Howard. He was bowling.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely dreadful. Bob Hawke actually tried to
lost an eye almost.
Yeah, almost got hit in the face. So and then you've had comical situations where Paul Keating's. I think he was a Collingwood fan for about 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. So anyway, there's a long history.
I can't imagine Paul Keating being an AFL or rugby league fan. For that
someone told him how many members Collingwood had. The great Labor tradition, so I think he embraced it for about 2 days, and people were laughing. So anyway, he dropped it. 131873 is the number now at 25 minutes to 9.
The 4BC Brekkie Show. Moral, Gary and Mark.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Here's the headline. I lived full time as a baby girl, and I spent $300 a month on nappies and sleep in a crib. Angie Miller, 25 years ago. Angie spends her days playing with toys, and she spends it in her nursery. I know a girl who makes a living dressing as Dr. Barbie. Really? She's a Panadol.
Breakfast with Laurel, Gary and Mark on 4BC.
Because menopause is not just about one symptom. Harmony is not just about one ingredient. Harmony's Menopause Max contains chaste tree, traditionally used in Chinese medicine. It helps relieve the intense symptoms of menopause, including hot flushes, night sweats, fatigue, irritability, and muscle aches. Take a positive step. Take Harmony, the #1 menopause brand in pharmacy. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. IQVIA Unit Sales Map 2309-2023.
Every Saturday morning from 8, thanks to Harvey Norman Computers and Electrical, Charlie Brown helps you navigate the tech world with life and technology. Got a question? Give him a call. Life and Technology, Saturday mornings from 8 on 4BC. Ampol Women's State of Origin is just around the corner, with Suncorp Stadium kicking off Game 1 on Thursday, 16th of May, on the eve of Magic Round. Be there to witness an unreal display of real rivalry and athleticism as the game's best female players square off in the ultimate fight for state pride. Tickets are selling fast. Don't miss your chance to experience Australia's greatest sporting rivalry. Head to nrl.com/tickets to secure your seats.
G'day, John from Sun and Plumbing. When you need a plumbing job done, there's only one thing to do.
Don't muck about, call the Trout.
Plumbing failed, call the Wild.
If you want the best deal, call the Eel.
Salmon Plumbing, we're up to 50% cheaper than the big guys, and we'll be there on time guarantee, or the first hour's free.
Don't flip your lid. Call the Swift.
Salmon Plumbing, bad puns, but great plumbers. Call 1300 Salmon. That's 1300 725 666. salmonplumbing.com.au. QBCC 741 050.
If you're after a scissor lift, boom or any kind of access equipment, talk to the local guys at Hunt for Hire. Proudly Queensland's largest privately owned and operated supplier of access hire equipment. Hunt for Hire won't let you down. They've got machines to meet your needs, ready to go right now. From scissor lifts to knuckle and stick lifts, big or small, everything you need to do the job safely and at an affordable price. Call 1-800-HIGHT or go to huntforhire.com.au. Hunt for Hire, safely taking you to new heights.
Race into Grand Prix Hyundai Caboolture for explosive deals across all Hyundai models. Like Starry alone, only $49,490 drive away, or a $2,000 factory bonus on Santa Fe. The deals are endless this May at Grand Prix Hyundai Caboolture.
It's on 4BC for DP's fast targeted pain relief from an iconic brand you know and trust. 22 minutes to 9 is the time. Michael Click is our national political editor. Just some of the feedback here, just in relation to this. As the poll said, I can smell a lot of wood stoves going. Nobody can afford the electric heating anymore. I'm not sure where that is. Let us know where you are if you can. Could be Canberra, Michael. Just stick your head out the window if you can. I hope that is some of your age pensioners. Question, of course, if you're on that age pension, those people on those incomes are doing it very, very tough. So we'll see if there's anything there. Some of those supplements, energy supplements and other things might be in the budget, Michael. We'll find out tomorrow night.
I was just going to say, just very quickly on benefits, I noticed that just popping up on the Sydney Morning Herald and obviously the Brisbane Times website is an article suggesting that the government hasn't done enough on the job seeker pay. So this is a Ross Gittins opinion piece suggesting that the government should have done a lot more on lifting job seeker. That's for people that haven't got a job that are out there looking for work. But while they're out there looking for work, they need a certain amount of money to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks. And I know that this is something that both sides of politics have really wrestled with. And the government, the Albanese government, did raise the job seeker rate in the last budget, but it wasn't by much. So it's interesting, this whole issue around benefits, whether it be pensions and job seeker and these other sorts of benefits that people still think that maybe they're not enough and that maybe more needs to be done to help people that are really vulnerable and struggling.
All right, we've had 3 boats believed to be carrying asylum seekers intercepted travelling to Australia in just over a week. The latest is 4 people near the north of Western Australia discovered. Now, the Shadow Immigration Minister, he was on the network earlier this afternoon suggesting that there needs to be better maritime surveillance to intercept these before they get to the coast. Have a listen.
It seems like that they're able to get through the surveillance that we've got currently in place. Now, we know that the government, the Albanese Labor government, cut that maritime and air surveillance, and we need to see that fully restored in the budget, because if they don't, the worry is we're going to see more of this and potentially more people coming here undetected.
All right, so that's one thing. Look, there'll be a lot of interest in seeing what's in the budget on that one. But 3 in a week, symbolically, it looks terrible.
Yeah, symbolically, it does look terrible for the government because they have adopted Operation Sovereign Borders, and we know that as soon as these boats are intercepted, the people are sent to Nauru and processed, and normally they're flown back to their country of origin. Because what is interesting, some of the people that have been arriving lately are from Vietnam and China. Normally they're not from those sorts of countries. It's been decades since we've had asylum seekers from Vietnam and China. It's normally people from Iran, Pakistan, those sorts of countries, and they're normally people that are stuck in refugee camps in Indonesia that pay the people smugglers to try and get them to Australia. And so these people, as far as we know, they are getting on these fishing boats, these wooden fishing boats, and trying to get to Australia. It looks as though on a few occasions they've actually reached the mainland, which is quite incredible. And a lot of it does come down to aerial surveillance, and there is this suggestion that there's been less aerial surveillance, and I think Border Force a little while ago did admit that there was less aerial surveillance in one of those budget estimates or parliamentary hearings. But they're saying that the reason that there's less aerial surveillance is because they can't find enough pilots to do the aerial surveillance, and sometimes they need to rely on the Defence Department to do the aerial surveillance on their behalf. Now, if you've got defence pilots and planes deployed elsewhere, or potentially they're not going to be able to cover the aerial surveillance for Border Force. But one of the reasons that there is this lack of aerial surveillance or fewer aerial surveillance hours that are conducted is because there's not enough pilots to actually do it.
Yeah. And look, if people think there's a chance they can get here, then
they'll try.
The news comes through, and there's it's no surprise that it's after the decision of the High Court and the conversation about the decision of the High Court we've got with all of this. So now, just getting back to the question of immigration, and this is something that we've had high levels of immigration going in the country for a very long time. I think we've had over 200,000. That goes all the way back to the 90s. Now we've had this massive surge coming through. So this is something that it's been done by both sides of politics, but we now seem to have a divide. And I guess we might see some numbers put on this by the coalition in relation to what happens in this, because it's now being seen by a lot of people as the stark evidence of it in the housing market. So international students made up much of the surge. There's now going to be a cap on the numbers coming into Australia to try and reduce the nation's migrant intake. So, I mean, the university's pushing back on all of this because they say it's one of our export industries, and the government's now saying, well, why don't you go and build the accommodation for them to come in?
Well, and that's the other issue, is that, that's right, the universities are saying, well, this is education is, I think, the fourth largest export for Australia. Now, and the universities obviously do make a lot of money out of it, but that's right. I mean, student accommodation at a lot of these campuses is fairly limited. It's snapped up fairly quickly, and so then you've got a whole bunch of other students that can't find accommodation, and even some of the student accommodation that you hear about near the universities is also fairly substandard as well. So again, this is another one of those interesting issues to see how it is actually going to pan out. Because today we did have the universities, key figures within the universities, I think a mixture of vice chancellors and other officials meeting with the government, meeting with the education minister Jason Clare to discuss this very issue about caps, which they're not keen on. I think they might be looking at something in terms of capping from the 1st of January next year. We don't know exactly the details of how it'll work, but it looks as though that there's something that's being considered that would start from 2025.
In 200 metres, turn left onto Bruce Highway, A1.
There's the toilets there. Nice, the seats. Toilets are over there, I think. Bit of a break the car.
So we'll see some numbers there.
I think we will see some numbers. The numbers that we're going to see tomorrow night.
Take the next left onto Bruce Highway, A1.
To about 260,000 people in the next financial year. So that's the numbers that are going to be put out by the government. Now, obviously these are predictions and forecasts, but you can assume, given that it's becoming politically, damaging for the government, that they're going to definitely do their best to try and reach that target of no more than 260,000 migrants coming to Australia, which is about half the year before.
Okay. Well, look,
I see a decent survey. I'll stop and get it. I don't like those new surveys.
home for families. QBC 1169
In 2023, Vicente Premium Aged Care celebrates 50 years. That's 50 years of looking after Brisbane families, 50 years of providing personal care and attention, and 50 years of training, learning and growing. Today, Vicente boasts 6 thriving communities throughout Brisbane, where residents are safe and secure, maintaining their independence and enjoying an active and social life. Discover what 50 years of a family-owned community looks like at vicente.com.au.
Continue on A1 for 177 kilometres.
Brings. Clayfield Jewellery have been designing, restoring and
wonder if
repairing
that's
jewellery since 1984. And if you're looking to create
Rockhampton, 177 k's.
their in-house team of jewellers can bring your dream to life from their on-site jewellery workshop. Visit clayfieldjewellery.com.au or visit their store and on-site jewellery workshop in London. Clayfield Jewellery, for all your jewellery needs since 1984. Recent to all the Hyundai workshop for exclusive deals across all $49,490 trial away or a $2,000 factory bonus on Santa Fe. The deals are endless this May at Grand Prix Hyundai Caboolture.
shows how it's actually happening. This is what's happened this year, we do this, because it's just simple logic tells you that that was going to spill it out when we wanted to get through them. So, but that's the possibility that. But this is an interesting one. This is the Herald Brisbane Times. They're reporting tonight that these two boatloads of asylum seekers are being kept at sea, not being sent to Peru for offshore processing. And there are questions whether the government is attempting to send them home. And they have got a number of people from the government saying, they're saying none of them have been sent to the Nauru detention facility. They haven't been sent home, but they're actually being processed on board for a specialist. So you do the processing, right? You're claiming to be an asylum seeker, and they've come from Vietnam. So I guess the question is often these things there has to be a process. If they're being processed on board for a specialist, then the question would be, will they process them so you're not a refugee and then turn them around and send them home?
Yep, I think that's right. I mean, this is quite an interesting development. If they are being processed on border force vessels, you're right, they'll probably say, well, you don't have any claim to be protected by Australia. You're not a genuine refugee. They'll probably put them on a plane back to Vietnam. Australia would obviously negotiate with Vietnam to take these people back, as they did with China, and that's what would simply happen. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bit of a cost-saving measure as well. So by not flying them to Nauru, and then once they get to Nauru, they've got to feed them and clothe them and shower them, look after them in that detention facility, and then process them, and then from Nauru, they'll more than likely send them back. I think that what they're doing, they're saying, okay, you've been intercepted, get on board the border force vessel, you'll stay here while we're processing you. If you're not a genuine refugee, you'll simply be flown back. Rather than sending them to Nauru and looking after them on Nauru, you just send them back home from the vessel.
Right, look, this time tomorrow night, there'll be, and I feel sorry for people who newspapers tomorrow do all these previews, because in the end, it'll all be revealed tomorrow night, 7:30. You're going to sit and go through all those books. People don't really, it's like a couple of telephone books.
They're really full on.
And sometimes, you go through, and sometimes they'll have stuck something into volume 4 or 5 or something. So you go through, and that's what you look for.
That's exactly right. You try and find things as best as you can in the time that you've got, and obviously, if you need, and you can ask questions of Treasury officials that are wandering around if you don't understand something or you're trying to find something. But yeah, you're right. It's trying to find the
sometimes you just find that something that's been funded up till now is missing its funding. It might be a really important, something important to a certain community misses its funding, or there may be a change in funding things. So that's some of the stuff's always in the details. So we'll try and get some of that across.
Well, you know that defence is probably going to have a lot of its funding either cut or what they call reprioritised.
And look, tomorrow night we might have a chat, because once the budget comes out, it is going to be a very interesting opposition reply from Peter Dutton, because there's a whole lot of areas where they can do things differently. And if they can say, look, we're going to do it this way, and it may produce a different result. And people, if they like the look of it, might say, well, what's happening right now isn't working. So that's going to make for a very interesting week. I've got a note here from Gary, who's a skydiver. He did 5,994, would that be right? Jumps, mostly at Picton in the area, just to the south of Sydney. Mum used to say I was going through the midlife crisis. You're really saying 5,900? Anyway, I'm only mentioning because this fellow, they do these things with the Guinness Book of Records. Apparently they keep 40,000 records, the Guinness Book of Records. They keep a database, and the world record for the oldest person to do a jump, skydiving jump, it's been creeping up over 100. And a fellow
like someone else, like
Alfred L. Lashky. Now, he did it in November. He's 106, and they've now verified it and ratified it. So he's the oldest skydiver at 106. He's a Texan fellow. So I look at him and I think to myself, because I'm
using Starlink. I'm not using 4G or 5G.
Because you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm jumping out of a plane here and I'm relying on this chute to open.
Starlink business.
106, you think, well, I guess
effective.
Don't go that well. I've had a pretty good innings. So I decided, because I'm expecting to be here when I'm 100.
I streamed all the way from
when I turn 100.
Cairns.
Great celebrations. And
I just started a new stream where I went and filled up petrol and charged the battery.
I will. I'll hold you to that.
You're a bit younger than me, so there'll be me, my 102-year-old colleague from the morning show. We might do a tandem jump, but that's all.
Yeah, you ever heard of Elon Musk? Okay.
Okay, so if you want, I'll join you.
Everyone
I will join you.
Okay.
You can help me to it.
A little bit of nonsense to finish the hour. Michael, you've got a big day ahead of you tomorrow. You've got to go through all those numbers, but it is really, really important because a lot of people will be looking to the impact it has on their lives. So we'll be talking a lot tomorrow night. I thank you for that tonight.
No problem. It's
great to take our national political editor. The news coming up soon.
Paris 2024.
Worked all the way down here so far. What are you doing? Writing novels?
Use NameCheck for first-time payments and call the personal organisation on a verified number to confirm your details. Implement multi-factor authentication and educate your staff on the latest scams and how best to protect the business. To learn more, search Combat Business Security. Reflect your style and add luxury to your home with Reflect Mirrors. Over 240 square metres of mirrors in one location. Mirrors for every style and every space. Reflect Mirrors, Ludwig Road, Windsor.
Hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles. National Tiles famous once a year. May Mayhem is the biggest and best ever. Spend 1,000 and we'll only charge you $750. Or spend 2,000 and we'll only charge you $1,450. That's right, spend $2,000 and we'll only charge you $1,450. Don't miss the biggest and best National Tiles Mayhem event of all time.
841 kilometres from Brisbane.
There are two types of people in this world. People who think Lego is for kids and Lego people. This is the sound of the form cleaning up after their children.
I started at 1,700 kilometres.
Every brick in its place, preferably forever. Whichever Lego type you are, you'll find Mr. Toys have more Star Wars, Technic, Botanicals, Art Range, Dreams, and hard-to-find Lego than any other. Australia's #1 for Lego.
Finish Sunday.
MrToys.com.au. Storage King is CanStar Blues 20.
I've got stuff uploading. I'll fix it all up when I get back home.
Operational satisfaction, quality of storage, accessibility and safety and security.
It's probably uploaded now. Off the phone.
For your nearest store.
There's about 100 videos.
What matters to us, like medical research, finding cures and better treatments.
So I just got to go through it all. And the last live stream I did got blocked, so I got to go through that. And clip out all the music. Because I had music just before the burnout, each burnout. So it's pretty easy to do. About 30 burnouts or something. I'll just do 30 clips or edit them all together. Well, that's for the last day, but the other 2 days I've got recorded in 8K, pretty much 4 in 8K.
Social media ban for children and an e-bike safety campaign launched. Good evening, I'm Chandra Llewellyn. The federal government is confident tomorrow's budget will help lower inflation sooner than expected. Treasury believes consumer price increases will return to the ideal band of 2 to 3% by the end of the year.
For that display of the burnouts,
believes it will take longer.
I think it was about 6.
Commonwealth Bank Chief Economist Stephen Halmarick says new measures in the budget could help ease soaring prices.
Our own forecast has inflation heading towards 3% at the end of this year, maybe slightly above, around 3.25%. But clearly it looks like the budget is going to have some policy announcements that will lower the measured rate of inflation, perhaps in the rental or electricity price space.
The South Australian Premier says banning social media for children aged under 14 could help young people take back control from tech giants. A former High Court Chief Justice has been appointed to examine the legal pathways possible to enforce a statewide ban. The proposal was inspired by a similar ban in Florida. Peter Malnowski says it's an ambitious idea, but one which could improve
Russia
the
doesn't really matter
livelihoods
when it
of young
gets blocked.
people.
That's only partially blocked, that's not blocked when it does that.
Eliminating social media. I'm just saying that for kids who are developing,
Belarus or whatever that country's called in Russia.
There's a period there we should be thinking about whether or not we should let this go unchecked.
A teenager has been sentenced to 14 years behind bars for the death of a Brisbane mother, Emma Lovell. The 41-year-old was attacked by the then 17-year-old during a home invasion in North Lakes on Boxing Day 2022. Emma was stabbed and later died in hospital. Speaking outside Brisbane's Supreme Court, her husband Lee says it's a bittersweet day.
Where's my mind run away and thinking that you're going to get like a life sentence, but I suppose the judge was going a lot of other cases to, try and get an appropriate sentence, I suppose. But I don't know. I suppose it could be 14 years, but honestly, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to bring it back.
The pilot is being praised for making a textbook landing at Newcastle Airport following a malfunction. The aircraft had been on its way to Port Macquarie when the landing gear failed to deploy. The plane circled for hours to burn off fuel before touching down safely. The Sydney Council is taking further steps to protect pedestrians from e-bikes. The Northern Beaches Council has introduced an Australian-first code outlining rules aimed at safety and respect of others on the road. Mayor Sue Hines says they were forced to take measures amid a rise in the e-bike's popularity.
As much as they'd like us to say ban it, we can't. We don't have that power. And in all honesty, this isn't an e-bike bashing kind of thought, because we know that they're really practical.
A study shows more than 2/3 of consumers are spending more on rent, mortgages and utility bills compared with the same time last year. And in finance, $1 Australian dollar is buying 66.09 US cents.
Sport. Listen to Night World of Sports weeknights from 6 on 4BC.
NRL bunker officials have been instructed not to overreact to high contact and tackles. Legend Paul Horton claimed rugby league was dying after Dolphins forward Jesse Bromwich was penalised for a minor accidental slap to the face of Manly's Tom Trbojevic. Head of football Graham Annesley admits the penalty should not have been awarded. reported.
Farnborough officials have been reminded that for a decision like this to be upheld, then there has to be some degree of force involved in the tackle, and this was, I think, insignificant.
GWS captain Toby Green says he's working hard to find his best form. The Giants have lost 3 of their past 4 games to drop out of the AFL top 4. David Warner's made a forgettable return from injury in the IPL. He was dismissed in the first over for just 1. That's the latest news and sport.
I have no clue.
Our First Choice League
Got
Market,
nothing planned.
Our team of experts are your first choice for great advice. We'll help you find your favourites.
August, I might be going. Well,
Discover
probably
something
most
new.
likely going out to.
That's why.
39% chance out to Leyburn, Sprints. There behind Warwick. Darling down, sort of thing. Other than that, nothing really. Might go to Winter Nationals at Willowbank. Who knows? Might do some walking streams, get some exercise in. I gotta get back and do some exercise. Keep my diabetes under control a bit better. Done a fair bit of walking in my day on the screen. I think I walked 30 kilometres one day on screen. Something like that.
advertising campaign, they were saying that the iPad's going to get rid of everything from pianos to all sorts of art created. And people just overreact to everything these days. So I'll talk with Stephen about that. How good are the new iPads? It's my iPad. Every time he comes in here, he's got something new, and I think, I'm going down the path of getting something new, so we'll see what happens when we do it this week. Also, in the previous hour, I was just talking about the 106-year-old who's now got the record of the oldest skydiver, and Gary was telling me he'd done thousands. Now I'm trying to work it out. So if you did one a day for 10 years, you're still not going to get to 4,000. So you must have, over a number of decades, I guess you'd be doing on a regular basis. And if it was something you did professionally, I guess you could really build it up. 131873 is the number now. 9 minutes past 9 is the time. We've got Stephen Fettig joining us talking tech. Just on, and I will raise this also, Stephen. Some of the changes that are happening, a lot of this is also being
Still 177 Ks to
all our
Brockhampton.
payments being digitised, and the Banking Association today, they put out numbers showing that spending on debit cards, because you've got, of course, credit cards, and this is one of the concerns, that if you've got a credit card sitting in your wallet, it's easy to put it on credit. Put it
You can find somewhere to pull over and put
then
your swag
you don't
up
pay
on
it
do
off.
that.
You then start to attract interest on it. They're saying for
Get
the
a few
year
hours
ending March
sleep.
2024, spending on debit cards hit 581 billion. Transactions made with credit 418 billion. Now, cash is now making up just over 10%. So nearly 90% of transactions are being done digitally. And while they're saying, this suggests that people are still using money transfers rather
make
than
it to
going into
Rockhampton,
debt
I'll probably
using
stop
credit
there,
cards,
maybe.
pretty big. $418 billion. Of course, the temptation when you put it on the credit card is that
Probably
you
should.
don't pay it within that interest-free
Just
period.
been driving for so long.
Accrue interest, and that creates a problem. But I saw
started
the
driving
headline
around
here,
6 o'clock this morning.
Huge website, and of course the way you do these things is you create a headline that then attracts people's attention, and so in relation to that, it says use it or lose it. Aussie spending more than ever on debt on debit and credit cards as cash use tanks. Well, and I looked at that, was your minute to go, was that mate? Use it or lose it. Well, you're not going to lose your money, and there would be people with huge amounts of money under the bed.
So give it a few more hours, because there's still going to be like 9 hours of
cash around in
Rockhampton.
case something goes wrong. But it does raise the question, 10, 20 years from now, if you've got a
Yeah, I'll try and do
substantial
that.
amount of cash, where will you go? Where will
That'd
you
be
be able to
safer.
take it? It'll be legal tender, but most businesses will say we can't take that. They just won't have the capacity to take it.
And then I can drive during the day then.
It's going to be most interesting, the transition over the next decade or two, particularly for those dwindling numbers who like to use cash. 131873 is the number now at 11 minutes past 9.
Anthony from Goodfield's Eatery knows hard work is essential for success.
Absolutely. Every dollar counts.
So when it came to the savings built up in the business,
I needed it to work as hard as we do, and a lot harder than other banks.
and that's why he opened a Macquarie business savings account.
Finally, we're getting the rate our savings deserve.
With Macquarie Bank, you can finally earn a great rate of 4.65% per annum on balances up to $1 million for your business savings.
Fantastic.
In business, everything counts. Search Macquarie Business Savings and say,
Great bank with Macquarie.
T's and C's apply, rates are variable. Consider if right for you.
Care and consideration. These are words that many people forget about in today's hectic world. But at Alex Gow Funerals, care and consideration are the very reasons our business has survived for so long. Maybe it's because of our family ownership, or the fact that we have been helping the good people of Southeast Queensland since 1840. But you can rest assured that these are the values that allow us to make every funeral so very special.
Alex Gow Funerals, care and consideration when needed most.
Did you know that respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is not just a childhood illness? Adults can catch it too throughout their lives. Similar to other respiratory infections, a cough or sneeze can easily spread RSV. Though often mild, RSV infection can be serious. Older adults may experience severe complications compared with younger adults. For more information about RSV, talk to your healthcare professional. Sponsored by GlaxoSmithKline Australia Proprietary Limited, Melbourne.
Jacaranda Financial Planning is the trusted voice in providing clear super and retirement advice. So don't miss Jacaranda's free Super and Retirement Planning Seminar, 6 p.m. Thursday, May 30th at Central Plaza 1, 345 Queen Street, Brisbane. Learn tips and traps and how to make your super and retirement income work for you. Book now for Jacaranda's Thursday, May 30th seminar by calling 1-800-40-2610 or visit jacarandafp.com.au.
Yeah, bro, here for Seats Are Us.
Hey bro, what are you doing in a Seats Are Us commercial?
It's simple, really. Seats Are Us have been in the truck, bus, earth-moving equipment seat business for over 40 years, and it's my 40th year as an Australian puppet icon.
But you don't even have a seat.
Yeah, it's true. I've only got an elbow where my bum should be, and I've got no backbone. But if I did, I'd want to protect them with the right seat. For a seat to suit, it's Seats Are Us. SeatsAreUs.com.au.
It's all the little things that make a Murray River Outback Heritage Cruise unforgettable. For a big adventure full of the little things, book your
magnificent Mother's Day event. It was really good. All the mums loved it. Everyone loved it. It was great. Lovely food as well. And she came up with, well, she told it really, I'm terrible at telling jokes. I reckon I'm the worst joke teller that's ever walked the earth or stood behind a microphone. I'm terrible. But she said, what food does Vladimir Putin hate? I said, what? Peace. It's very good. Took me a while. Oh, right. So it's very good. I thought 10 years old. Well done. And also, we were talking a moment ago about skydiving. Gary has sent me that text. He's saying when competition skydiving was coming up, we'd do up to 8 jumps a day for 6 to 8 weeks prior to competition. The odds are you're really stacking the odds up there if you're doing it that way. So obviously people love it, and people who fly and who are good at flying, everyone tells you it's just remarkable. So we had this story today. This all played out to the north of Sydney around Newcastle Airport. You had a 13-seat passenger plane, 2 people on board with a pilot, and the landing gear had a major problem. So they were going to have to do a belly landing. Even I know, seen with plenty of movies, we know they landed on the belly. There's the wheels aren't going to come out, and they're saying it's got to be done very, very well. The metal, I'm reading here, they're saying if it doesn't work properly, the metal body can bounce down the runway and sparks can fly, the fuel tank might ignite. So they've got to, first of all, dump the plane. And they did about 50 turns around the airport to burn the fuel and reduce the risk of immolation. In the end, the Beechcraft Super King Air, this happened around lunchtime today, it was landed in textbook fashion by the pilot Peter Schott. Now,
Robot
Peter Schott has apparently, he's 53, learned to fly.
Robot Andy!
Learned to fly.
Robot Andy!
Well, I got the stream up now, it's alright. I think it's probably just a couple of Starlinks.
So I got that from that. I would have done this exercise for students 200, 300 times. So it was quite tense.
And he handled it very, very well, very relaxed. Certainly, if I'd been one of the people in the plane, I don't think I'd have been able to even speak. I'd have been an absolute mess. But it sounds to me like if you look up there and the way he was speaking there, he would have calmed them down. So, what I'm doing here. Sometimes there are people around you and you look at them and think, yeah, they do know what they're doing. So well done him. Quite a story, that one. 18 minutes past 9 right now.
Now on nights, Stephen Finney from Tech Guide. Thanks to iPrimers, proudly connecting Australians for over 25 years.
they knew what they had left at the end of each week. Whereas if you're just waving your card all the time, you'll lose
exactly right. Unless you're checking your balance every day, that's the thing. Like, you'd like to know what you're spending. You don't want to get a shock and one day not have any money in there to spend. So, yeah.
131873 is our number now. Any questions you've got for Stephen? Of course, his website is techguide.com.au, techguide.com.au. If you've got a question for him, 131873, you can talk to Stephen. You can also send us a text, 0460 873 873. Now, look, I saw this story over the weekend. So they've introduced these new iPads, and then I saw that there was some marketing fail because they were saying, oh, these iPads can do all these things, replacing pianos, people who sing and writers, and so they had to, they were saying that they'd actually pulled back from the advertising. Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, so there is sort of an AI element to them. Everything has AI element.
Yeah.
But it is as far as you can take it as far as you want to take it. If, like, remember a few weeks ago you were writing songs, so it's up to the user how far they want to take it.
But if it can do all of those things, and the suggestion was that they were being portrayed as this evil thing that was getting rid of all the creativity in the world. I don't think anyone sees it that way.
No, I don't think so at all. I think AI is kind of evolving into this helper rather than doing the job for you. We've seen that many times. Like, I think the first crackdown we saw when we first were introduced to ChatGPT beginning of last year was through the education departments, and how they banned it for students to use it to pass off their work as their own work. And so it's now become a tool rather than it doing the job. Sort of, I think of it as a ladder to get you up where you need to be, generate some ideas and come up with a starting point rather than it doing the work for you.
Now, you know I'm always here. I'm like the consumer advocate for our business. So I've got how old is an iPad 8? I reckon now my iPad would be at least 5 years old. Yep. I reckon it's the least, but it works perfectly well. Does everything I need. It's I've got a nice new cover for it, and I reckon it'll last me a bit longer. But now there's another lot that puts it even further in the rear window. So these are the first new iPads for 18 months. The Air and the Pro, and the Apple Pencil.
What you've got is iPad, no, just the normal
Just a straight iPad. That's all I need.
That's still there. So the iPad 10th generation they're up to, that hasn't been updated, but they've reduced the price. It's actually cheaper now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So I think they've knocked off $100 off it.
Oh, really?
But the iPad Air is now available. It was only available in 10.9 inch. They've now rounded up to 11 inch. They've also put it up, they're also offering a 13 inch one because they found with the iPad Pro, the top of the line one, more than half of the sales were for the larger iPad. So Apple thought, well, let's offer a larger iPad in the middle one. So there's iPad Air, sort of the middle one. iPad Pro is the top of the line.
Yep.
So that they've added that. That's with the M2 processor. But the iPad Pro has had a massive update. The iPad Pro is now, it used to have an M2 chip. They've skipped 3 and gone to M4. So this is a powerhouse. They've also got a new OLED display on it as well. And this amazing, they call it tandem OLED, where, an OLED doesn't produce quite the brightness of an LCD screen. So what does Apple do? They put 2 OLED panels in there and put them together, so that generates the brightness of an LCD screen. And not only that, because an OLED doesn't have a backlight, the iPad, the 11-inch model is 5.3 millimeters thick. The 13-inch is 5.1. That is so thin. It's thinner. Remember the iPod Nano, the really small iPod? It's thinner than that. It's remarkable how thin this has become. It's and yet still as powerful as ever. It's like laptop level power. Has new Magic Keyboard. Well, the iPad is meant to give you, well, for a start, it's a touchscreen. So Apple don't make a touchscreen laptop and never will. This is their touchscreen laptop, if you want one. And it's as close to a laptop, a touchscreen laptop, as they're going to get. And there is even new video editing software, audio editing software, so it's quite powerful. There's also the new Apple Pencil too, with the squeeze functionality that gives you all these tools right at your fingertips. So they go on sale on Wednesday. Yeah, iPad Air. No, the iPad Air starts at $999 for the 11-inch.
Yep.
And the iPad Pro, I think, starts at $1,700 for the 11-inch.
Okay, but if you get one of these, you say $100 off.
Yeah,
decent
cover on it.
That, you know what? For a lot of customers, that does the job. That's and the 10th generation doesn't have a home button, so there are no home buttons on the iPads anymore.
All right, here's the question, because look, this one, I reckon in the last weeks I've had problems in the house. We had some rain in there. I've been ripping up carpets. It's comical, actually. If I should have videoed myself doing it. And I've dropped this a couple of times, but it's been in its case. But they're saying here how easy to break. So that's a really important issue. If you break the thing,
anything, you can break anything.
I know that.
And these, no, but they've still got the same sturdy aluminium structure to them. So they're no weaker, even though they're thin, they're no weaker than the other ones. Yes, well, exactly, but they're no, because it's thin doesn't mean it's weaker. It's still the same sturdy quality as the previous generation.
All right. Now, Edit Cronulla wants to organise a glider flight for me. Well, glider's not an engine.
No, it's a glider.
All right.
It's quiet.
Give it some thought. Maybe when I'm 105, I might do that one. The bank's nowhere and when you spend your money. Well, that's true. There's an electronic record of everything you do.
Of course there is.
And I know because, well, you're doing the tax over the weekend.
Yeah.
So, and I put everything on my credit card. So I'm going through. And I'm looking at it thinking, this tells me everywhere I went. You see, you can tell where you've been. Of course. It's all there.
That's my account. What my accountant does is it looks at my account on Xero, sees my through my business is spending, to see everything I spend on the credit card, sees everything that comes in. Very easy.
Okay, let's go to Myra, who's called into the question for you. Hello, Myra.
Hello. Myra. How you doing?
Yes, I'm taking your opinion. Samsung A50 or Motorola 350 better for son.
What was the first one? The Samsung A50. Is it the A55?
A15 and Motorola 354.
Yep, I would. If I had to toss a coin, I'd go Samsung. Yep.
Samsung A15. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's about. I think Samsung has, in my opinion, a slightly better OS, a slightly better operating system, and I think slightly better camera as well, and a nicer, bigger screen.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Samsung. No worries.
All
right. 131. You can see a lot. Very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. People are always looking for, the
affordable phones.
Phones. Yeah. And I'm still now, just speaking of this, yes, because I mentioned to you a few times I'm a hoarder. So I've got all my phones going back to, because my first phone arrived, I think, in 1990, 91. So it's a Nokia, original Nokia. Yeah. And I've got them all in a drawer somewhere.
You could have a museum.
Well, I could. Yeah. But the 3210, so which one was that one?
That was it was around in turn of the century, 90, I think it's 2000 it came out, yeah.
Right.
And that was the phone that everyone had. Pre-iPhone, of course, right? That was the hottest phone you could own because battery lasted a week. It was small, and back then, of course, it was just talking text. So, what does Nokia do? They're bringing it back. They're bringing it back because there is a movement. And look, for want of a better word, dumb phones are making a comeback because people are thinking, well, I'm going to use this. It might be my weekend phone where I just want to just calls and texts. I don't want to waste time scrolling, looking at social media. I want to be present. And the trend is, we've spoken about this in the last few weeks, the trend among Gen X, Gen Z, millennials is this very thing. They're moving towards these phones that just have talk and text. Remember a few weeks ago we spoke about Heineken releasing the boring phone? That's in conjunction with HMD, which is the same company behind Nokia. Their flip phone, the 2660, sales of that simple phone doubled last year. And a lot of customers buying it were buying it for that very reason, where it's just the bare necessities. But they've released also the 215, the 235, so there's a few other simple phones. And by the way, all 4G compatible and all with VoLTE. So after 3G shuts down, these phones will be fine. So if anyone's looking for, they're worried, and they want an affordable phone, like the 3210's like $120, and the other one's as cheap as $79.
I'm just intrigued because I'm wondering what the market is, because I wonder if there are young people, because I'm looking, they've got these in quite bright colours, who might think, I just want a phone to make calls and texts, that's all they need. And if I need to do anything else, I've got a laptop or I've got an iPad, so they might want to do anything else. And the colours, one's in scuba blue,
Another's in Y2K
Y2K gold, so you reference to 2000.
Yeah, and grunge.
Again, grunge was all the rage back in the turn of the century then.
So
I think you think about, let's sort of put ourselves in like a Gen Z millennial position. I say they want to go on a night out with their friends, rather than taking their smartphone, which they'll probably be tempted to scroll through, check social media, see what else is up to, and they're up to, take photos, post to social media. They're taking themselves out of the evening, aren't they? But they're with their friends. So if they just have a phone like this, if they do need to make a call or make a text or anything else, they can do that. And even people say, well, how are they going to get an Uber? You can now, there's a phone number for Uber now, so you can actually call from Uber. Yeah, so there's a way to do that.
Fantastic, right? So it's the Nokia 3210. They're calling it the Nokia 3210.
Yeah, it goes back again.
Okay. Can Hannah just check me when it came out? There's an important point here.
I think it's 1999.
Hannah gives me the exact date when it came out. I've got a hunch that Nokia 3210. I'll have one at home, but I think the thing about it is,
turn it on. This is like
this would be the phone that was used to call the gold medal in the archery at the Sydney Olympics. Now that's quite a thing. So I'll just find out. No, I think that could be it. That could be the phone, and I'll just make sure.
I'm looking at it here. It came out. I got it here. It was announced in March 1999. I told you.
So if I hung on to it for 18 months, I would have been using it then in September.
First release 99. So it's a quarter of a century ago.
Got this one here.
Oh, it's stopped for a while.
In 400 metres, turn left onto Bruce Highway, St Lawrence Road.
4G.
I don't know if I should set up a swag in here or not.
It's 4G, but it doesn't have VOLT. So
and then Susan says she's got a Galaxy A34.
Come on. I'm fucking tired.
So you see they don't come see phones, they come and charge them. So she needs to find a power supply, and then there's probably a USB-C port on the phone, so she just needs to take it.
Probably should do it under the light, I suppose. On the grass. So going to set up a swag, I'm just going to turn the stream off. Start it up again tomorrow. Yeah, I think I might do that. I'll get a few hours sleep. Austin goes all in anyway.
In 600 metres, turn left onto Bruce Highway, St Lawrence Road.
You got all the shit off the road. That piece of grass back there.
There's an argument about, like, it is legal tender, and I don't know how they can refuse. Like, could say, for example, you know, there's an old guy turned up in the footy and he's got 20.
Yeah, that's true. NG. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I'm a bit of a loner too.
I think common sense would say, but then the corner store mightn't use cash, so they get the $20. And they
Okay, I'm just going to end the stream and turn off my power box thing, okay?
So what are you going to do with the $20?
And I'm going to go and get some...
What do they do?
Shut eye.
Or say someone hands over...
Take care, everybody. Ken Jackson and NG.
Well, that's the
what
shop.
Do they do
the shop. That's on the shop.
This is it's not really, because if I'm just saying it is legal tender.
You take care.
They should have a float. The float.
Ciao. I'll start the stream up
We'll see
in the morning.
And the Reserve Bank make the point that businesses aren't obligated to.
See ya.
But the question then is whether you're prepared to knock someone back who's genuinely in need, as opposed to someone who's being a narc and just trying to make a point. That's the thing, isn't it? Well, anyway,
money's money.
Take care.
The word legal tender.
I know it's legal tender, but you have to take it. That's the point.
Well, that's an issue.